Welcome to a very special edition of The Piano Men with Stanley Carr. You're definitely in for a treat tonight, ladies and gentlemen. As I mentioned on the program last week, you've got a couple of special guests joining me in the studio this evening. These gentlemen are absolutely incredible musicians, and I'm so happy to have them on. Please welcome my good friends, Dylan and Mark Jones.
Hey, Stanley.
Hey.
How are you?
Doing great. Welcome for coming. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, of
All
course.
right. So let's get ahead and let's get started. So what got you into music? We'll start with Mark.
Oh gosh, a little kid, and you go see the Beatles' Hard Day's Night movie, and you come out and you're changed for a lifetime. And it really was about that simple for me. That was a long time ago, and those guys are still top of the list for me.
Yeah. And now you went on to go to Berkeley.
Yeah, I did back in the Jurassic period a few years ago. I went up to go to college there and study music after I finally decided that nothing else was going to suit me. And ended up spending a lot of years up in Boston before I came back to Nashville.
Did you take lessons growing up as a kid? Did you start learning?
Yeah, a few very early on, not really that many though. Really, it's kind of just listening to records and transcribing what you hear and learning that way. And then other players around you, you learn things from them, and that happens over a lifetime. And
Exactly.
before you know it, you're looking down at guys coming up, and you're showing them things, and they're showing you things. And that's kind of the way a musician learns and finds his way.
Absolutely. Practice. So you went on to Berkeley, and then how did you come to Nashville? You said you...
Well, I had spent many years up there developing a rock band. We got a record deal and did a lot of touring and won some MTV contests. And, at a certain point, it just wasn't, quite doing what I had hoped. Then I got invited to come to Nashville and join a group called Exile, which was a very established country act. And so I moved back to this area. I'm from Hopkinsville originally, and started touring with Exile, and those friendships have endured for years.
And of course, that brings us to our feature of this evening, our piano player, Dylan Jones. Welcome to the show, bud.
Yeah, it's great to be here, man.
Yeah. So, how did you get into music?
It definitely starts with him over there a little bit. Him and my mom steeping me in the right music as I was growing up. But I have to kind of give a lot of credit to a kind of summer camp that you and I both spent some time at. The first one was a camp called Kids on Stage that was kind of like a music and arts camp run by Mr. Gene Cotton.
Yes.
Who's a great kind of philanthropist.
Fantastic.
And a songwriter, musician in his own right. Took a piano class there and loved it and started taking lessons. This was after he tried to teach me guitar at 5, and that didn't work out great. But started playing piano at 8, loved it, kept up with it, and started playing guitar around 12 or 13, about that. And through those camps, the camps like Kids on Stage, and then another camp called The Jam, which was run by Laura Hill, another wonderful lady. Who
Shout out to Laura Hill if you're listening.
Yeah, shout out to Laura Hill and everything she's done. That camp kind of got a lot of the younger players, a lot of whose parents were kind of in the music scene in one way or another. We all kind of got connected and were playing in high school. Everybody was just playing in bands and discovering new music through each other. And then not long after that, I also went to Berkeley for a couple years and kind of shed it out up there in the cold. Loved the school, but was kind of itching to come back to Nashville, where I knew I could really start kind of cutting my teeth on the road and really kind of getting some different experience that you can't get in school.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of been history ever since. I've been doing pretty much as much touring as I can since then.
So who are some of your favorite instructors at Kids on Stage and The Jam?
Oh, I mean, that's a tough question. There were so many great. I don't know who's listening, so I don't want to leave anybody out. But I mean, Valerie Clemente was probably the first really influential teacher, because she taught me in jazz band at Kids on Stage, and she's just a wonderful spirit. John Pavlovsky was a great instructor.
Shout out to John.
Yeah, shout out to John.
Rock and Roll Express.
I don't know, man. There's just as much, like, the same amount of talent that came through the kids came through in the instructors there. And it was a shame they all couldn't be there every year because there was just so much talent on every level going through the
so many just great instructors and a wide variety. It seemed like
Truly.
you had just a little bit for everybody. I mean, we had like every genre imaginable. We had Latin ensemble, we had rock, classic rock, we had R&B. I mean,
R&B, metal, country, obviously, roots
Acapella.
bands. Acapella, yeah, that was one of the newer ones. Yeah, it was a really eclectic camp, and I'm grateful for that experience.
you had like probably one of my favorite. You had probably one of the best bands ensembles put together. Your groups were always like top notch. Like
Oh man, thank you. It was
You're welcome.
definitely. I was lucky just to, especially once I was teaching there. By the end, I was just lucky
Yeah.
to have the talent that I had in the other kids in the band.
absolutely.
And, yeah.
I can remember one of the times that I was performing on stage. I believe it was ska. I mean, you were right there on the organ.
Yeah.
I was actually watching that performance earlier. Man,
Oh, no kidding.
yeah, it was just
Dude,
it was just
I might
great.
need to go back in and take a peek at that. Man.
Yeah, it was
So
fun.
There's some gems back there. I mean,
There were.
You had your fair share of just
Yeah.
fantastic performances,
Yeah.
man.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. So, what were your earliest memories playing piano? Like, what do you remember? What songs you started learning?
Yeah, I think when I started, it's funny. It's also not surprising, but when I started, I was picking out a lot of like the simpler Beatles songs, just like songs you could sit down and play. I mean, I think he taught me "Let It Be" like
Oh,
a couple months into playing piano, and that was probably the first song I like really learned
Good choice.
in its entirety.
Good
Yeah,
choice.
listened to a lot of Beatles stuff, just for the simplicity of it. I was taking classical lessons,
Yeah.
so I was doing a lot of that, but. The stuff feeding the soul was definitely some of those old Beatles songs,
Yeah.
and then eventually some Stevie Wonder stuff,
Mhm.
and eventually we started doing some Steely Dan too. And,
Yeah.
it just kind of grew from there.
So, influence-wise, would you say Steely Dan, Stevie Wonder were some of your favorites?
I think it would be wrong not to say that.
Yeah.
I think I just spent so much time. I mean, Stevie as a singer,
Mhm.
especially,
Mhm.
but also as a piano player, just like there's some absolutely amazing melodies and progressions that he came up with.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like him, obviously bands like Steely Dan that are just so rich with musical ear candy.
Yeah,
Just,
of course,
hear
you
new
know.
stuff every time.
Well, I'll tell a story about Dylan when he was probably 5 years in as a piano player, and we were having some parties occasionally, and of course I've always invited musicians, and at one of the parties we had a piano set up and a drum kit, and we were just playing songs, pretty typical common repertoire, and Dylan started playing along with us, and it was like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know he had this. And so we put together a band comprising of some close friends and family and all adults except Dylan. And we set out to start playing, and we spent many years, I guess we still technically play together, 12 years later. But it used to be I just loved having my son standing over there playing the piano.
Yeah.
But after about 6 years, it's like, who is that piano player or singer over there? He's pretty darn good.
You kind of found your way, just kind of like picking. Oh, I know this.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I got a lot of time to really just like steep myself in all those old songs, and they still kind of are the foundation of everything I know now. So,
Do you remember your first instructor? Was it Valerie at first, or?
Well, if to say my first true instructor would have to be June Warren, who was my classical piano teacher. And really, when you talk about foundation, she kind of taught me everything. I mean, she taught me how to read music, really read piano, piano music, and was the foundation of my knowledge as a keyboard player, because I spent 5 or 6 years taking lessons from her.
Wow.
Yeah. So definitely her. Valerie, I do have to get some credit for, especially in one of my earliest band settings with jazz band. She kind of helped whip us into shape. But also the time I spent in the Boomers, and that was probably one of the most beneficial, especially now that I'm spending most of my time on the road. I kind of learned a lot of the do's and don'ts of live performance from that. So
kind of gives you a little bit of, I don't know, experience working with your father, working together, kind of like
totally
helping out. It benefits.
Yeah.
Benefits.
We never spent any time on a tour bus though, so I don't know how well we'd all do on the.
That's the next step.
Yeah,
That's the next step.
exactly.
Well, I got my tour bus merit badge in a different time frame
That's true.
than Dylan's gotten his. So.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to spend
But
another
we both
second
know
on
what
one,
it's
probably.
like to be on the road, 100+ days a year.
Absolutely,
You know,
absolutely.
So.
Who are some of your what are your favorite styles of music that you like to play usually?
Oh well, I mean, not to be that guy, but I mean, there's something I love about most every style. I mean,
Yeah.
I spend a lot of my time playing country, which I do love. But when I'm really trying to get eat my Wheaties as a player, I love to listen to more of the jazz focused stuff. Listening to guys like, not to say I can play like him, but guys like Oscar Peterson,
Yeah.
and Bill Evans are absolutely amazing to listen to. And then you've got honestly bands like Steely Dan that cross a lot of styles, and there's just so much rich musicality to listen to. So that kind of stuff, if I'm really trying to spread out, yeah, or jazz or Latin infused jazz, got
Sure.
some Chick Corea too.
Sure. Mhm.
Yeah.
What practice exercises do you usually do when you warm up?
When I warm up, I think scales are always going to be. I mean, scales are kind of like an icky word for a lot of people, but
Yep.
I don't think they ever stop being beneficial to do. But you start learning how to mix them up. Like instead of just doing a straight scale, maybe do your arpeggios like diatonic.
Yeah.
Diatonic
Go onward
sevenths
and
and stuff
upward.
like that, and
Yeah.
go up and down, and change the pattern in which you're doing it with your fingers. Just basically things to kind of warm up your fingers and add a little versatility. But
Absolutely.
the basics never stop working.
Absolutely. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, I'm just amazed to see his growth as a musician through the years, and I did not anticipate his becoming the singer that he has become.
Oh,
so we get together and sing together a lot, and have a big time doing it.
Yeah.
He's definitely grown as a musician because I've seen you play over the years, and your voice has definitely matured, and your playing has grown too.
Thank you, Stanley.
Oh, you're welcome. It's really just an amazing sight to see everybody just kind of finding their niche and finding their way through this journey called life, and it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. Those are
You're
kind
welcome.
words.
Thank you. So why don't we do this? Let's take a little bit of a break here. When we come back, we're going to have you guys play something. We're going to play one of your favorite, something by one of your favorite piano players, Sir Elton John. Did you, by the way, did you get a chance to see Rocket Man? Or?
I haven't seen it yet. I have not. I really want to. I know it's the same guy that did Bohemian Rhapsody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very interested to see how he does.
It was a very good movie, very heartwarming movie. Just I think the guy who portrayed Elton John, Taron Egerton, did a fantastic job, an incredible job just portraying that character. It's a really good story too.
Yeah,
absolutely great story. But let's play a little Elton John, and when we come back, we're going to hear some of Dylan and Mark Jones. You're listening to The Piano Man with Stanley Carr. All right, Benny and the Jets by Elton John. Sir Elton John, you're tuned to WRFN 107.1 FM. You're listening to The Piano Man with Stanley Carr. Thank you for tuning in. We're sitting here with Dylan and Mark Jones again, and we're here to promote this upcoming 1971 music show coming up at 3rd and Lindsley. Mark, tell us about this awesome program that's coming up.
Well, we my co-conspirator Lee Carroll, who I played in Exile with for many years, we started talking about picking a year and doing a show based on the music of that year. And after some research, we came up with 1971, and we're calling the show 1971, the greatest year in music. And it's a real extravaganza. We usually have between 15 and 20 people on stage for the course of the show. It runs about 2.5 hours long, and it's a multimedia show, so there are images projected up behind the band of cultural currents of that year. Mm-hmm. And we're doing a show on Saturday the 29th at 3rd and Lindsley in Nashville.
Exciting. So I hear you guys have something prepared that you'd like to play?
Yeah, I thought we'd play maybe something from the show. We're doing a song by Paul McCartney called Maybe I'm Amazed.
All right, let's hear it. Dylan and Mark Jones. Woo, man. Killer. Awesome job.
Thank you, Stan.
You're welcome.
Hard to go wrong with a song written by Paul McCartney.
Oh, can't go wrong with
Good.
Paul McCartney. Sir Paul McCartney, another one that was knighted by the Queen of England. Tell us a little bit about Maybe I'm Amazed. What does that song mean to the both of you?
You know, I think it's about being in love with a very forgiving person, and you know, you're just amazed by all that is good about her and all, or he or she, all that's good about them, and how forgiving they can be to you. And you know, he beautifully expressed that in this tune, and I've always loved it.
I don't know if I can say it any better. That's true. It's some of the best lyrics ever written.
Definitely. One of the great things about that time period, the 70s, so many different genres of music were showcased. You had pop, you had rock, you had country, you had soul. I mean, disco.
Yeah.
You had all sorts of music that was shown there. Why do you think the 70s is, in your opinion, one of the probably the best best decades for music?
For myself, I would say it's sort of an intersection of what had come before and where music was heading. So, you know, what came before was a little harder edged on one side, and then R&B, soul a little bit as well. And as you crossed into the early 70s, you know, you started headed toward disco and more sophisticated pop music.
Mm-hmm.
And so right there at the intersection, which is where we feel 1971 was.
Yeah.
You know, it's just such an eclectic year in music, and you know, we're both Dylan and I are very eclectic musicians,
Yeah.
so we listen to a really wide range of music, and this show gives us a chance to do that.
Let's play another song from an influence of yours, Michael McDonald,
Oh, yeah.
the Doobie Brothers.
Dylan took keyboard lessons from Michael's
Really?
pianist.
Wow.
Yeah. Shout out to Pat Coyle.
Yeah.
He's teaching down in... he comes back every now and again, but he's down in North Texas. Unbelievable piano player.
And
he
we
still plays with Michael.
And we saw Michael McDonald perform, I believe, a couple times at Kids on Stage.
Yeah, that probably would have been just him, but yeah, he was very connected with Gene Cotton and all those guys, and he would always come down. He lived in Leapers Fork, which is where the camp was.
We also have used Mark Douthit, who is
Oh,
Michael's saxophone player on some of our 71 shows. He's not on the next one, but whenever he's around, he's usually an early call from me, and you know, he loves doing the show as well.
Sure. So let's play one of Michael McDonald and the Doobie Brothers' greatest hits. Here's What a Fool Believes, the Doobie Brothers. All right, Michael McDonald and the Doobie Brothers with What a Fool Believes. We're joined by Dylan and Mark Jones. Thank you guys for coming on. Anybody you want to say a shout out to who might be listening from in-state or out-of-state or in the city?
You know what? If they're listening, my message is, come on down to 3rd and Lindsley next Saturday night.
Yeah.
And here's Break Loose on some 71 stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So let's talk about your experience at Berklee. I know you went to high school, took some music classes, and went to camps, summer camps, and then you went on to Berklee. How did that experience work out?
Well, as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid out of Franklin, Tennessee, it was definitely it was eye-opening. It definitely, the biggest thing I noticed, and I think that's what a lot of people have when they go to school, is, you know, however far along you might feel you are, once you go into that kind of arena, you go from being for lack of a better term, a big fish in a little pond to being a very small fish in a very, very big pond of just incredible talent. And Berklee is no different. I mean, the thing I got the most out of that school, I think, was just listening to all these different musicians of many different ages, a lot of which were around my age, from all over the world that had just grown up listening to very different kinds of music and obviously different cultures.
Yeah.
And just kind of absorbing as much of that as I could. I mean, I had fantastic professors while I was there, but I think I learned more from the different students at the school than anything else.
Do you remember any of your favorite classes that you had?
Some of the ensembles I did were really, really great. And as somebody that just wanted to play, the ensembles were a big part of it to me. And there were a couple like jazz combos that were obviously a lot of fun, and that's kind of, again, like eating your Wheaties.
Yeah.
But I mean, I even had some stints in some a little more relaxed, but definitely very serious ensembles. Like I did one semester in a Bob Marley ensemble that was really, really rich. Like just I couldn't believe how much there was to learn about reggae in just the style of playing, not to mention the history behind it.
Sure.
So that's one of my more cherished memories from there. Yeah.
And Boston's a pretty big town. I mean, it's a metropolitan area, so you had all sorts of venues you could go. Did you go to any venues to play or just see friends? Or
Sure. I mean, there's one thing I will say, and he can probably attest to this more than anything, is that for being a pretty big city, there's definitely room for more good venues for people to play, especially with so many musicians in the city. But I mean, there were places like All Asia and the Middle East Cafe was a great one. TT the Bears was a great one, all kind of scattered around Cambridge and Back Bay.
Yeah.
But definitely still room for more. I just came back from playing the Paradise recently on a run, Paradise and the Brighton Music Hall, which were two venues that I never got to play when I lived there.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And some of our friends went there to school with you.
Yeah, shout out Jake Finch, shout out Savannah Hill.
Ben
Shout
Worley?
out to no Ben did not go. Ben pursued his film scoring elsewhere.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm not worried about him. Definitely shout out Lars Thorson. There's such a large community. It would take the whole hour to shout out
Yeah.
to all those people that are here in Nashville now too.
It's become this. I know there's definitely a group of Nashville students who would go to Berkeley, and the community would just be like, "Oh yeah, I know that style. I know that." It's like everybody
Yeah.
comes together. The great thing about Nashville is that it's a very close-knit group of people that know what they're doing.
Right.
They support each other. They love music, and they want to help one another.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get any better than that in another city.
It's hard in the bigger cities. It's hard to find that much connection. Nashville's a little bit more welcoming, and part of that I think is about how it came to be what it is.
Do you remember what happened? Just your reason for leaving, or did you just?
I mean, a few different reasons. But like I said, I think really the main reason what I was kind of itching to come back and really
Sure.
just start playing. I mean, there was definitely still so much to learn at that school, just like
Sure.
in life in general. There's always
course.
way more to learn. As soon as you feel like you've made it, that's when you need to start working on
Absolutely.
something else. Because
Could see somebody who's really itching to do something and they're really passionate about it and they're
Yeah.
going to school for it. If they're taking too long to get through their classes,
Right.
I'm going to say, you know what? I just don't know if this school thing is for me.
And I did come back. I came back and finished at MTSU.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
spent my last 2
Yeah.
years there in their audio production program, which
Exactly.
is incredible.
Yeah.
But then I was also close to
You
home.
could do what I did. I went 4 years there and then just didn't turn in my final project on
Yeah.
the road.
Yeah.
And then fast forward 10 years.
Yeah.
I went back
That's
and,
right,
and
yeah.
I called him up and I said, hey, I'm thinking maybe
Yeah.
I should finish.
Mhm.
I said, what do I owe you? And he called me back and said, well, you didn't turn in your final
Yeah.
project.
Mhm.
And I said, well, what is the final project?
Yeah.
And they said, well, you just need to make a professional recording.
Exactly.
So I sent
Yeah.
them an Exile record on
Yeah.
records.
Yeah.
And they sent me back my
Yeah.
degree.
Exactly. And when you came back, I mean, you came back a more, I don't know the word to describe it, like you gained so much experience from being there, and you came back and you started getting all these awesome gigs. I mean, who are some of the people that you've been playing with over the years?
Over the years,
Yeah.
there's so many people. I've done a little bit of time with a lot of really talented artists and musicians. Right now, I'm on the road pretty steadily with this guy, Drake White, who is a fantastic singer and country writer. He's got a lot of really great gospel and just southern rock feel. And that's been great. I've done a little bit of work with Mason Ramsey.
Yeah.
Also,
Yodel Boy.
also known as the Yodel Boy. To spend a little bit of time out with him. Worked with this artist Ryan Falze, formerly and now once again part of the band Hot Shell Ray.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Him. A lot of smaller stuff. Right now we're on the road with like Zach Brown, Drake and I. Just so many times. Annie Bosco. I'd spent a lot of time working with her when I first came back to town.
Yeah.
Colin Elmore, who is
Yeah.
a local Sony artist. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to a few of those shows and just seeing the amount of talent on that stage is just unbelievable. Blows my mind. Now, I remember just watching. One day I was hearing about the Today Show, and they had a few guys on there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's Dylan Jones from Jam Camp." I'm going, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
So, how does that make you feel? Were you nervous at all? How does being shown on a national stage?
Definitely nervous.
Yeah.
Especially the first time. I've been lucky enough to do a couple since then, so I kind of know how to handle myself. But I was also running tracks the first time
Yeah.
I did it, so
Mm-hmm.
I was sweating bullets leading up to that one. But it was such a cool experience. Yeah, that was with Ryan Falsey a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Great experience.
And then you were on Ellen DeGeneres not too long ago.
Yeah, that would have been December, right before Christmas.
Yeah.
That was with Mason Ramsey. Yeah.
Mason is a phenomenal singer, yodeler. I think he played at the Grand Ole Opry not too long after his first video went viral.
He did. He's done a couple performances there now. He's got a great team and a great group of guys playing around him. So I feel very certain that he's on the right path.
Oh, absolutely, no
Yeah.
doubt, no doubt. Let's take a little break here. Let's play another one of your favorite artists and influences, Steely Dan. As we mentioned earlier, this is Peg. What can you tell us about the song Peg? What do you like about it?
One of the songs that we played for years in our cover band, the Boomers. Absolutely lovely song. One of the best grooves I think that ever came out of that band.
Mhm.
And Michael McDonald's in the background.
And
on
good
it.
old Michael
Mhm.
singing those high harms. Yeah.
Getting that connection going of musicians. Steely Dan with Peg right here on the Piano Man. All right, Steely Dan with Peg on the Piano Man with Stanley Carr. How's it going? We're joined here with Dylan and Mark Jones. So glad you're listening to us on Radio Free Nashville. That's WRFN LP. And just a great song, Peg.
Oh yeah.
Killer, man. Those synthesizers, that funk sound, that disco sound.
Yeah. Classic whirly.
Yeah. Can't get any better than that. So let's talk about your session work. Have you done any session work lately, or what goes into a good session in your opinion?
Yeah, I've been able, lucky enough to fit a few sessions in now and again. I mean, having a busy road schedule makes it difficult.
Yeah.
But I was actually just in the studio last week with this artist, Charles Johnson. He's a East Nashville singer, fantastic singer-songwriter. Kind of just went in and did some keys overdubs for him. But, I mean, really what makes a great session is, I mean, obviously the engineer and your producer. But, I mean, the songs are everything. Like,
Exactly.
starting with a great song is what's going to make a session really go, because it can be easy to kind of go in and play the same thing over and over again as a session person, but when you're really inspired by the song you're working for, you tend to give it a little extra magic, which is why people would call somebody like you for that in the first place.
Exactly. And you're still writing?
I am a little bit now and again, just to kind of keep myself sane, flex that creative muscle,
Keep that rhythm going.
Yeah, I try to write a little bit on my own. I do some writing now and again with a really talented guitar player and producer songwriter named John Prentice, who you know.
Shout out to John Prentice,
Yeah,
Johnny
shout out
P.
to Johnny P,
Yeah.
wherever you are.
Yeah. I don't even think he lives far from us.
No,
Bellevue.
yeah, he's definitely in the Bellevue area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a great
in
guy.
Nashville, I think it's safe to say that the song is the key to the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So if you find the right song, you got a good shot.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's why Nashville focuses so much on songwriting and publishing.
Exactly. What, in your opinion, makes a good song?
A good song. Oh, well, there's so many. I mean, there's a lot of answers to that question, and there's also a few obvious ones. Again, I think it's I think a piece of advice that actually he told me, which has still stood true, is I think a lot of the best songs that are out there are songs that if you take away all the bells and whistles that are put on it in the studio, or however it's produced.
Sure.
If you take that back and you can maybe sit down at a piano or a guitar and just sing that song just by yourself with that, and it still holds just as true otherwise, that's a great song.
Exactly. Great answer, too.
Yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
that's some wisdom from him. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you guys have been playing together for a long time, and as you've gotten older, you've been playing more and more with your father. How has that been for you?
Amazing. I think I've honestly come to appreciate it more as I've gotten older. Being a teenager, you can you
Yeah.
tend to act like a teenager about things a lot. But I am just so grateful for the opportunity to have been able to grow up playing music with my parents and learn so much from them.
I remember going to a show of yours at the Wild Wings Cafe.
Oh yeah,
You drew a big crowd that night.
that couldn't have been that long ago either. That was maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it closed down recently, but
We played there once or twice.
Yeah.
60s and 70s music, I believe that's the same kind of genre you're still sticking with now. Just what goes into putting a show like that together?
You know, we are friends foremost in the Boomer Band, so we pick songs together, and amazingly we have pretty compatible tastes. So,
Yeah.
picking songs is a fun thing. It's not like a contentious thing.
Yeah.
There's just so much out there to choose from. So
Yeah,
it's just fun. Picking a song. Sometimes you're picking a song that's a little more challenging, and you come out on the other side having learned something and made yourself better. And,
yeah,
and other ones are just have sentimental value.
Exactly.
And, they just feel great to play.
awesome, fantastic, fabulous performance. That's Dylan and Mark Jones. Unbelievable.
Thank you.
Wow, it's great. So we were talking earlier about performance anxiety, nervousness. How do you feel, in your opinion, Dylan? How can you defeat that for those of you listening who are pianists and want to perform?
Well, certainly breathing definitely helps. If you forget to breathe, you forget to do a lot of other things. One thing that we always do on the road, or I like to get in the habit of doing, is before you go on stage. Honestly, no matter what kind of show it is, if you're playing for 1,000 people, 100 people, or just ashtrays. I mean, I like to just move for a little bit, shake the limbs out, get a little extra steam, because a lot of those jitters can come from just you're anxious, you're energized, and it really helps to kind of take a step back and doing that, moving around, dancing before you go out. Yeah, just kind of feeling yourself for a little
Yeah.
bit. Honestly,
I totally agree.
yeah, that helps.
There you go.
And that energy, that nervous energy, energy is a key part of that, and that's something that you can sort of take and bring to the performance. Calming yourself in some ways is fantastic, like Dylan's talking about. But having a little energy edge,
Yeah, absolutely.
really will catapult you into a good performance sometimes. So don't be afraid of it. Just embrace it and use it.
And don't forget practicing, of course.
Of course, practice is key.
Just want to make sure you're in the realm of doing what you're doing, and you've got all the right places. And if you just make a mistake, just sit it out.
Play through the mistakes. 90% of the time, you're the only person that's going to notice
My
your own
motto
mistake.
is: if you look like you made a mistake, you made a mistake.
There you
Yeah.
go. I remember David Toledo told me a great story one time of this, I guess like this saxophone player at a gig he was at, and he just he played all the wrong notes, but he was just having a good time, and he was, he wasn't, he didn't start from the beginning. He just went through it, and always just make sure you put your smile and look like you're having fun, and that's what music is about at the end of the day.
And if you play the wrong notes, just call it jazz.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've got a little bit left, but do you know where anybody can find your music if you've got any music out there?
Well, really not. As far as 71 goes, we're really not trying to put out music. We're really just trying to take this body of music, put together a fantastic band, and just play it. Sometimes we'll take a song and turn it completely upside down.
Absolutely.
And other times we'll try to be really true to the recording.
Exactly.
It just depends on what the song inspires us to do.
Does it feel like there's a positive reception when you've done these shows in the past?
That's what's been really keeping us going forward, is that the way people react to the show lets us know that there's no doubt about the fact that the music is still very viable and still continues to inspire people.
Yeah. Have anything you want to add to that, Dylan?
Well, since I was lucky enough to be a part of the first couple shows, I definitely attest to that. I mean, you see a lot of people out there that have, lived in that time, and they get something more than just enjoyment out of the music. I mean, they really kind of relive such an impactful time. I mean, it's if I can tell the story really quick, I mean, we've had people get so lost in the show. I mean, we had a friend who had to leave because at one point in the show we do, well, I'm blanking.
This song is Riders on the Storm, and it's really kind of one of the songs that was embraced heavily by the Vietnam War. So part of our show is projecting a lot of images up, and there were a few folks that had a little PTSD there.
Yeah, PTSD. Yeah.
PTSD. Thank you.
Yeah.
But you know, they came back around and said that, you know, your performance at the show really, really moved me. So,
That's great.
And you know, it always feels, you know, great to do that. So.
It's always good. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. It really means a lot. I know it's been a long time since you and I've actually crossed paths.
Yeah, it really has been, man. Thank you so much for having me and having us out here.
Yeah, I know. Like, I remember, like, when I first started the show, I was like, one of these days I need to get Dylan Jones out here because he's just phenomenal keyboard player. And
thank you, man. I really appreciate
you're a great artist and musician. You certainly have a lot of positive tools that you've taught your son, and it's
just dumb luck there, Stanley.
it's
Hey, we want to congratulate you on your first steps in the radio business. You're doing great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the invite to come
Yeah.
on here
Seriously.
and be on your show and
come
we'd
back
love to do
again.
it again.
Yeah,
thank
come
you.
back. Absolutely. So we've got a few minutes left. Let's close out things with Stevie Wonder, another one of your favorites you mentioned earlier. Here's Higher Ground taking us out on this Monday evening. We'll see you next week on The Piano Men. Like us on Facebook at The Piano Men Radio Show, facebook.com/The Piano Men Radio Show. I'll see you next week.